Welcome to Touchdown Town on BetsTV. I'm Gilles Gallant with FTNBets and BetsTV. It's Super Wild Card Weekend, Brenden, and this is Brenden Deeg from the National Football Post joining me. Going to be making some touchdown bets for Super Wild Card Weekend, making some top quality decisions for your touchdown prop bets. So, Brenden, which game are you looking forward to the most of betting touchdown scores for Wild Card Weekend?
I think the first one off the bat I really like. I do think there's some value right out the gate, and we'll get into it. But I think this game has the highest potential for scoring out of any of the games this week. Also Monday night as well, I believe. Those two games both have firepower.
Yeah, so those two games he's referring to are the Raiders versus the Bengals and the Rams hosting the Arizona Cardinals. So here's how it's going to work today. Instead of being our 5 best bets for the 1 p.m. Eastern and 4 p.m. Eastern games, instead, we're going to be making a best bet for each of the wildcard games. So that's 6 picks each. We're still going to be likely betting 2 to 3 picks per game, right, Brenden? But I think for this show purposes, this is the best bet that we have to offer for each wildcard game. So we're going to get started here in just a minute. I just want to remind everybody to check out my weekly show, Dog Day Afternoon. That is on 2 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays. I had my man Ray GQ on the show. He was awesome. We broke down wildcard games, and he was able to give me some really solid fantasy advice as we head into the 2022 season and the offseason. So you want to go check that out on the BetsTV YouTube channel. Brenden, I'm ready to go.
Let's do this.
All right, man. Yeah, so let's get started. Raiders-Bengals is going to kick us off here. And this one's an interesting matchup. I think we both kind of came to a conclusion that some of these defenses do struggle against certain positions in certain scenarios. So my first bet for Wildcard Weekend for Raiders-Bengals is Darren Waller. I'm going to take his anytime touchdown odds at plus 200, grabbed it at DraftKings. He returned to the lineup in Week 18. It was clear that Derek Carr missed him because he had 9 targets in his return, but you could tell that the timing was a little off because he only had 2 catches. And speaking of really being missed, he missed 6 games this year, but he was still second on the Raiders in red zone targets behind Hunter Renfrow. So had he played a full season, I think he would have easily surpassed him in that spot. The Bengals, they rank bottom 5 in yards and catches to tight ends this season. I think that's going to be a weakness for both teams in this matchup. And from a game script standpoint, I think the Raiders could get down quick potentially, and they may make a comeback in the second half, but they'll likely have to be passing a lot is kind of how I feel this game is going to go. So I expect Waller in a do-or-die game like this. He's going to get a ton of targets, especially in the red zone. And I think the only chance for the Raiders to win this game in Cincinnati is that they got to have their dominant players be dominant, and Darren Waller has got to do that today. Now, I will say out of all the touchdown score bets that I've made, I have a little bit of injury luck, or maybe the bad injury luck, I guess, if you want to put it that way. And out of all of them, Darren Waller is probably the one that scares me the most. But if you went into every game making a pick and you were going to talk yourself out of it just based on whether or not a guy was going to get hurt, you'd never make a bet. So Darren Waller at anytime touchdown at plus 200 is my first best bet of Super Wildcard Weekend.
Love it. Plus 200 is great value for this guy. He is the best player basically on the field when the Raiders are on offense. He is that good. It's been an off year.
Better than Renfrow.
Yeah. No, he's 100% better than Renfrow. He's a better offensive weapon than him. He hasn't been there this year. This year, of course, Hunter Renfrow's had better stats, has looked better. Just Waller hasn't really been on the field. He's been battling injuries, but talent-wise and kind of just game-breaking wise, yes, Darren Waller is the best offensive player on the Raiders.
And I think you probably echo the same sentiment. I'm not looking for kind of an echo chamber here, but I think in order for the Raiders to win, Waller's got to be dominant.
Yeah.
Like if he's kind of a ghost out there, I'm not really sure that the Raiders are going to be able to move the chains as well as they want to today. So that's my first bet. Brenden, let's hear your best bet for Raiders-Bengals.
Gilles, question for you. Who on the Raiders has led the team in targets over the last 4 weeks?
I mean, the obvious answer you would think is Hunter Renfrow, right?
It is not Hunter Renfrow. His name is Zay Jones, and he is plus 300 at FanDuel. DraftKings. I think this is great value for this pick. He has 19 targets in just his last 2 games and leads the Raiders in targets over the last 4 weeks. He's been Derek Carr's go-to guy. And if you remember last week against the Chargers, when Carr was driving down the field towards the end, when he needed the big play, he was looking for Zay Jones. They've developed a trust together. And I do think Hunter Renfrow is going to get a ton of just they're going to zoom in on him and Darren Waller. So a guy like Zay Jones is going to have to make plays for this Raiders offense today, and plus 300, in my opinion, it's great value for a guy that just had so many targets over the last 4 weeks.
Absolutely. I think the one thing that I was kind of shocked at was the odds. I figured it would be closer to like plus 220 because he has emerged as wide receiver 2 in this offense over Bryan Edwards, in my opinion. I think as well, one of the things that I really like about it is, that Derek Carr is going to throw a couple deep balls today. So I think one of them is going to Zay, or another one might potentially, long shot might go to Deshaun Jackson. But I think Zay is the better option here, especially with the amount of snaps he's been playing in this span when he's kind of started to increase this role. So Raiders Bengals in the books. I've got Darren Waller. You've got Zay Jones. We're going to move on to Patriots Bills, the headliner tonight of Super Wildcard Weekend on the first night. So, Brenden, earlier this week, I was able to get pretty decent odds on this pick, and it has dropped. And usually I don't really endorse a bet when the odds drop too low, but I think this is still in the sweet spot. My second pick of Super Wildcard Weekend, specifically for Patriots Bills, is Damian Harris. I was able to get a Damian Harris anytime touchdown at plus 160 earlier in the week at Bet365, and he's still sitting there at plus 130, which is to me insane. You can get him at plus 120, for example, at BetMGM. I'd still bet it at those odds because he scored 4 touchdowns in 2 games versus the Bills, and the Patriots offense. Again, they may not be great, but the one thing they know how to do, man, they know how to run the ball. They have 24 rushing touchdowns this year. That's second in the NFL. Harris has scored a touchdown in 10 of his last 11 games. That's 14 touchdowns total. And only Jonathan Taylor has more touchdowns in that span. So, Brenden, I would pose you the question. If this was the same matchup and it was Bills-Colts and you could get Jonathan Taylor at plus 120, would you be taking that bet?
Well, duh. Of course.
Yeah, of course. So the fact that you're able to get Damian Harris at plus odds almost feels like disrespectful at this point, especially given the track record and just how they've used him this season and how the Patriots offense has gone. So generally, I don't like to take bets below plus 200, so I felt like I got pretty good value at plus 160. But anybody who could still get it at plus 120, I'm with you. I think you should still take it.
100%. This is a great bet. If he's over plus money, you should be taking him. He's going to be the guy that's going to punch it in for them in the red zone. This is a great pick.
Okay, now Brenden, so that is 2 picks in for me. One of them, especially below plus 200. I'm sure people are kind of scoffing at me right now looking at me just like, what have I become? But in my opinion, I think it's like my favorite bet of the week. So let's hear your best bet for Patriots Bills.
Okay, so quickly, I just want to add on to your Damian Harris pick. He had 3 touchdowns against the Bills in the last game they played.
Yes. 2 games.
So it's definitely worth the value there. Okay, so my next bet, I only have 2 picks for this game in general. I've kind of found it tough to find value in this game, and there are 2 guys in this game that you should be 100% betting. I'm going to give you one of them right now. That is Dawson Knox plus 240. Those odds are available at FanDuel. Look, Dawson Knox at plus 240, you never ever get this value with him. He is always he's always plus 210, plus 220, and we always hit him at that. Whenever he's in this range, it is an automatic bet. He is tied for the league in touchdowns this year. He's been awesome for the Bills. He's going to be a guy that they're going to look at. He had a touchdown last year in the playoffs in the divisional round as well. And the Belichick factor. What I mean by that is, what does he do the best? He takes away the best player on the opposing team or the best players on the opposing team. He brackets coverage around them. So my guess is Stephon Diggs is not going to have a really big day, and they're going to try to keep Josh Allen in the pocket and make him throw to other guys except for Stephon Diggs. Insert Dawson Knox. He's going to have a big day. I really like this pick as well. I'll add a Hunter Henry on the Patriots is also plus 240. So I like that one. Those are my 2 bets.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yeah. So those are my 2 bets for this game.
I love it, man. And you know me, like you're preaching to the converted. Like I've been basically singing Dawson Knox's praises probably since last year's postseason. And as we were entering this season, I was essentially telling anybody that was willing to listen that if those odds are over plus 200, you hammer it immediately and you just take what the results are. And you would have made a lot of money this season had you just blindly bet Dawson Knox touchdown props every week. Yeah. So that's day 1 of our touchdown bets. Just for obviously to let people know, like we're going to have more touchdown bets for each game. But again, these are still our best bets. Just to recap, so I had Darren Waller as my best bet for Raiders Bengals. You had Zay Jones as your best bet for Raiders Bengals. And my best bet for Patriots Bills was Damian Harris. Yours is Dawson Knox. So that's day 1. Let's get started on day 2. with a matchup that I'm sure you're going to have an eye on, Brenden, being as the Eagles going to Tampa Bay and playing the Buccaneers. You know what? I'm gonna change it up here a little bit, Brenden.
You want me to start it off? You want me to kick it off?
I'm going to do this first pick because
okay.
Your reasoning on this guy, because I loved it when you first told me on the phone.
Okay, so of course, big Eagles fan, so I'm going to be looking forward to this game. I do think this game also has a ton of juice for touchdown scores, especially on the Eagles side. I know I sound like a homer here, but I think there is some value on their side. I am going with Devonta Smith plus 270 at FanDuel. I think this is great value just compared to where his odds were all season. He was never, ever even close to this during the season. I don't get why when you head to Tampa that the odds change. Tampa Bay Buccaneers allowed the 19th most receiving yards to opposing wide receivers. He's going to be matched up with guys like Sean Murphy-Bunting, who has had a bad year this year. They have a shaky secondary. You can attack them. I do think that he's going to be the focal point of this passing attack. He needs to be the focal point of this passing attack. And the other thing here that kind of swayed me in this game and when I was thinking about it, or this pick when I was thinking about it, Devonta Smith plays his best games and his best football in big matchups. Remember last year in the national championship game, he had 215 yards and 3 touchdowns at halftime. The year before that in the Rose Bowl, he destroyed the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. He is the best. He's the best big game player almost in the league right now. He's going to have a big game for them. And the Buccaneers are going to be playing a ton of zone coverage, keeping everything in front. Eyes on Jalen Hurts. You don't want Jalen Hurts to escape the pocket. Devonta Smith's going to be able to pick apart zone defenses, which he is very good at doing. I think this is tremendous value at plus 270.
I love the pick. I just wanted to know, Brenden, because you're the resident Eagles expert, so I just kind of wanted to get your take on this because I know some people are going to look at Devonta Smith, they'll see those odds, they'll be intrigued. But then you see Dallas Goedert, for example, over plus 300 at some books. And he didn't play, for example, in that matchup earlier in the year. How do you think he's going to fare in this matchup against the Buccaneers?
It's tough. Like, you were right. He didn't play in week 6. Zach Ertz did. You actually had Zach Ertz to score a touchdown in that game, I believe, right? And he did. Zach Ertz did score a touchdown. That was his last game as an Eagle. He led the team in targets with 8. So you can kind of translate that to maybe being good for Dallas Goedert, right? If the tight end led in targets back in week 6. Just the problem is to compare it to that game is Eagles offense is just like so different. Like, it doesn't even look like it doesn't. When I rewatched that game, I'm like, this is pointless. I'm not getting anything out of this. Like, the offense just looks so different. So Dallas Goedert and Devonta Smith are going to be the 2 guys they target the most. I've been kind of banging this drum all year. Those 2 guys should be the only guys getting targets in the passing game. Like, they are studs, and the talent level just drops off drastically once you get after Dallas Goedert and Devonta Smith. So I expect them to be targeted early and often.
All right. So I'm going to bet an Eagle as well.
Let's go.
And I got to go with your man, Jalen Hurts, man. Jalen Hurts is sitting at plus 220 right now at FanDuel. Actually, I think it's up to plus 230 right now, which I just think is insulting. Again, he led all quarterbacks with 10 rushing touchdowns this year, 22 red zone carries. That's most on the team and in the NFL for any quarterback. And as you know, in the second half of the season, it's been a night and day switch. The Eagles' rushing attack has been the bread and butter in the second half of the year. And one of the reasons why I wanted to take Jalen in this spot is when you look at just how he's matched up against teams that are considered top run defenses, like the 4 teams that he faced, for example, that were top 10 in both rushing yards allowed and rushing touchdowns allowed were the Denver Broncos, New Orleans Saints, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the San Francisco 49ers. The only game that he didn't score in those was against the Broncos, and he still had almost 80 yards rushing in that game. He had 6 touchdowns in the other games, including 2 touchdowns versus the Bucs in the fourth quarter in the last time when they played. So the fact that I'm getting this now over plus 200 is just insane to me, because if you used any other quarterback in this scenario, like a Josh Allen, like a Lamar Jackson, you're not getting better than plus 130 odds in this matchup. The fact that I can get Jalen, who is a running quarterback, I'm just going to call him that. I'm sorry if that is insulting. Is incredible value at plus 220. So Jalen Hurts at plus 220 is my best bet for Eagles Buccaneers.
Yeah, he led the league in touchdowns for opposing for quarterbacks. I believe he had 2 against the Bucs. Correct? Yep.
In the fourth quarter. I mean, it was garbage time, but it counts the same, so I don't care.
No, this is great. This is a great bet. He's never in this range. Like, I don't get why they inflated the Eagles touchdown odds like so heavily in this game. Vegas and sports books are basically saying Bucks are going to trounce the Eagles. And that's from what I got just from touchdown score bets and the spread being upwards of close to 9. I think it's at 9 right now. So yeah, there's a lot of value on the Eagles side, and Jalen Hurts is definitely one of those guys.
Before we move on, though, I just wanted to get a offensive line update. Is everybody playing that? As far as I could tell, it was, but you're a little bit more inside than I am on that stuff.
So the Eagles offensive line, like they're not fully healthy from week 1. Like Isaac Seumalo, their guard is also out, and Brandon Brooks, but they've had the same offensive line basically for the last since week 8, since they've kind of rallied around. Lane Johnson did not play in week 6 against the Bucks. He's back. Jordan Mailata is healthy, so the offensive line's good to go. That's going to be kind of the bread and butter. Jason Kelsey's good to go. They got to get on the outside. They got to get running on the outside of that Bucks front seven. So I can't wait for this game, man. I've talked about it for hours all week. I needed to show up already.
Well, I did see that Miles Sanders is also expected to play in this game. So
he's fully healthy too.
All right, now we're going to move on to the 49ers Cowboys, the game that I'm going to be probably laying in a fetal position, just crying by the end of the game, just the way that at least most bettors are looking at it right now, because I think the 49ers are easily the most popular underdog pick of the week. But I like a Cowboys receiver to score in this matchup, Brenden. So my best bet for 49ers Cowboys is Cedric Wilson. I was able to grab his anytime touchdown odds at plus 260. I think you had him last week when they played in week 18 against the Eagles, and he had scored, I believe, 2 touchdowns in that game. And the reason why I bring him up and why I wanted to play him is because the wide receiver 3 in the Cowboys offense has just been actually getting nearly as many targets as the number 1 option. So like CeeDee Lamb has the most targets on the team. But Michael Gallup or Cedric Wilson, if you combine their 2 stats, like their targets, it's nearly the same amount as CeeDee Lamb. And it's not a coincidence that all 6 of Cedric Wilson's touchdowns this year were scored in games where Michael Gallup didn't play. Technically, they both played in week 17, but Wilson scored his touchdown right after Michael Gallup tore his ACL, RIP to Michael Gallup and his long-term contract likely in the offseason. And the 49ers, despite how awesome their defensive line is, they still rank bottom 10 in yards, catches, and touchdowns allowed to wide receivers this season. And that Dak, that they're probably not going to be as effective running the ball with that defensive line. Zeke just probably not getting as many yards after contact. So for me, I love the passing options, and the fact that CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper are around plus 120 to plus 150 at best. To get plus 260 on a receiver who I think is going to be heavily involved in this game, I just think it's too good odds to pass up, Brenden.
Yeah, plus 260 is a great value here. I got him last week at plus 230, so you're even getting a bump up from that. And I like this. No Gallup, no problem. He steps in nicely and fills that role. He played well early on in the season too when Gallup was out. 49ers, like you said, have struggled against wide receivers. I do think this game's going to be a little high scoring as well. So yeah, I'm all over this pick, and I'm also following with another Cowboys receiver. So we're both kind of the same mindset here.
Well, let's hear it, because this is probably the largest odds of any pick that we're doing this week, right? So, and I think generally I like to play it a little safe, try to stay in the plus 200 to plus 300 range, more of an anytime touchdown score. You have a 2 touchdown score bet that you want to make this week, and it's for 49ers Cowboys. Let's hear it.
I had to squeeze one in the show, and this is 100% my favorite pick of this game. I kind of struggled to figure out some value here in this game, and I thought this one was definitely worth the pick of the week. I'm going CeeDee Lamb 2+ plus 700. Those odds are available at DraftKings. The 49ers are going to be all over stopping the run. I think it's going to open up the passing attack for the Dallas Cowboys. CeeDee Lamb has been a monster this year. I'm still pissed off that the Cowboys drafted him over the Eagles. He was probably my biggest draft crush I've ever had in following the NFL draft. I'm obsessed with him. I'm obsessed with his play. I think he's a top 5 wide receiver in this league when he's going. And he had 115 targets for the Dallas Cowboys. That was the most by over 26. So he was by far the leading target guy on the Dallas Cowboys this year. Him and Dak Prescott have good connection at plus 700. I thought this was great juice for him. He's had 2 touchdown plus games this season. He's going to have to come up big for them. Love this pick.
Yeah, I think for sure. I think he's going to score at least 1 this week. I think, and I mean, here's the deal. Even if he doesn't score at all this week, you're getting a guy who like 100% is going to get volume. You know that he's going to get at least 8 to 10 targets. And that's really all you can ask for. And you know that he's going to be out there in the red zone and can score from pretty much almost any angle. You've seen him be flexible and kind of catch it behind a corner like that and stuff like that. It just one of those kind of versatile wide receivers, especially in nut crunch time where they're going to be looking for somebody who's sure-handed. And I think he's going to be one of those guys that's going to be instrumental in doing that. So I think CeeDee Lamb, for the value alone at plus 700 to get 2 touchdowns against this defense, solid pick, man. And obviously, if CeeDee Lamb is getting 2 touchdowns, that likely means the Cowboys' offense is flowing, which probably means the Cowboys are winning, which means I'm very happy. So, All right. So we're going to move to the finale of Sunday night, which is the Steelers and Chiefs. Steelers and Chiefs matchup. Biggest underdog of the week is the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm sure even anybody outside of Pittsburgh and even people in Pittsburgh are probably shocked that they even made the playoffs. Just given what was the situation entering week 18. And I have a Steeler that I think is going to score in this matchup against the Chiefs. And that's Deontay Johnson. Grabbed him at plus 220. And the reason why I had to grab Deontay is I wish that I loved the player like the way that Ben Roethlisberger did when it comes to Deontay Johnson, because the amount of targets that Deontay gets, you would think that he is the best wide receiver in the NFL. Double-digit targets in 13 of 17 games. He was 6th in the NFL in red zone targets, 8 touchdowns this season. Both leads the team. Both of those metrics lead the team. The Chiefs, they gave up 19 passing touchdowns to wide receivers this year. I think that little 4-week span, or pardon me, 6-week span where they were kind of shutting down some teams that were less than stellar offensively, I think that might have clouded some people's judgment on really kind of what this Chiefs defense is all about, especially what we saw in week 17 with the Bengals. And they gave up 19 touchdowns this year. That was 23rd in the NFL. And Deontay Johnson as well, even if it was garbage time in the last 5 minutes of that game when the Steelers played the Chiefs. Guess who scored the touchdown? It was Deontay Johnson. The fact that you can get him over plus 200 to me is just insane. Just based on volume alone, as we were detailing with CeeDee Lamb, just based on volume alone, these odds, especially when you look at comparison, his odds when they went into Kansas City that last time was plus 160. Now I'm getting him at plus 220, and he scored the last matchup too. And in a matchup where Roethlisberger is probably going to have to throw 40 to 50 times because they're probably going to get down quick. Why would this be over plus 200? I'm taking the bait. Deontay is going to score in this matchup.
Shill, I was pretty tempted. I was staring at these odds all week. Deontay Johnson 2+ plus 1100. Because my mindset to this is if the Steelers are going to have any chance in this game, he's going to have to play super well. He's their best player on offense. I don't think it's really close. He's a really underrated receiver in the league.
I'll give a special consideration to Pat Freiermuth.
Maybe in the red zone, but overall, yes, Muth is a good player. But I do think Deontay Johnson has got a ton of talent. So I was kind of thinking, hey, if the Steelers can pull off maybe not an upset, but get this game close, then it would be kind of on the back of Deontay Johnson. But I did stay away from it. I really, really, really like that pick at plus 220.
So I'm 5 picks in now. I've got 1 pick left for Cardinals Rams. You made a really good case for a guy for Steelers Chiefs to me when we were talking on the phone earlier this week. Let's hear that pick for Steelers Chiefs.
Okay, so I'm going to another Pittsburgh Steeler as well. So we got 2 Steelers in this one. I'm going Ray McLeod plus 370. Those odds are available at FanDuel. He has been awesome. He's been awesome for this team over the last few weeks. He's played a ton of snaps. He's upwards in the 70 and 80% snap counts over the last few weeks. They like his mobility. He's very fast. He's very shaky. So they like getting the ball in space. Like you said in the last slide, the Chiefs have a weak secondary. They have 23rd against the pass in EPA per play this year. So you can still throw on this team. Just watch what the Bengals did to them a couple weeks ago. And look, I think this guy is going to get a ton of money and be more involved in the offense as these years goes by. He's younger. He's got a ton of juice, and I think he's going to shine in this game. Now, I do want to throw out this pick just because we're both on Steelers. If you're looking for some value on the Chiefs, I have Jerick McKinnon plus 600, and he's still there, Jill. At FanDuel at plus 600. Yeah. Still there. I can't believe it. So Clyde Edwards-Helaire is out. Just a heads up. So Jerick McKinnon is basically Darrell Williams and Jerick McKinnon are going to be the 2 running backs there. Highly, highly, highly recommend that. Ray McLeod plus 390 is my pick of the show, but I do recommend Jerick McKinnon at FanDuel at plus 600 as well.
Before we talk about Ray, so I've had people kind of message me and ask me about Derek Gore, whether or not he's going to still have
Yeah.
any kind of role in this offense with Clyde out and Darrell kind of playing more of the lead back. Do you find that does that the classic gambling Twitter question, does that concern you at all?
So I was looking up Derek Gore's stats this year, and in his age, he's a young guy, so I don't really know if they're going to be playing him a ton. And he hasn't really done much this year. Like I think he averaged like 3.8 yards a carry over the last 2 weeks. So I think he's going to be involved. Like it'd be crazy not to see he's not going to be involved. But look, Jerick McKinnon has the most experience in the playoffs, right? Like he was on that 2017 Vikings team that went to the NFC Championship. He hasn't been the same guy kind of since that year, but he's still a really talented player. And he's kind of Andy Reid's. Chris Meany, I was on his show earlier this week. Yeah. He made a great point. He's kind of Andy Reid's style running back, right? He likes the pass catching running backs. I just have this feeling and this tingling feeling that he is going to get a ton of playing time today. Or tomorrow.
And Ray, to the Steelers' credit, just as a long-standing tradition of the Steelers, they always develop the hell out of wide receivers. You go
crazy.
Through they never make a first.
Deontay Johnson was the pick they got from Antonio Brown from the Raiders, right? Like it's crazy how full circle that came.
Absolutely, man. And now with Deontay in, you have Ray McLeod, so we're both kind of banking on that. I will say that wink, wink, nudge, nudge. May want to take a look at Mahomes as well in that matchup. 4 touchdowns in 8 playoff matchups in his career, and playing a Steelers rush defense that hasn't been very strong. Even though TJ Watt and Cam Hayward both made the Pro Bowl, they have still been susceptible to quarterback runs. And I will say that just with Clyde out, there's just more chance that maybe Patrick just decides to tuck and run at plus 450. It might be worth a sprinkle here. A little preview maybe of my picks later for Steelers and Chiefs. Now let's move on to the final game of Super Wild Card Weekend, and that is the Arizona Cardinals visiting the Los Angeles Rams, playing for the 3rd time this season. And Brenden, the book on the Cardinals this year has been the fact that they just can't seem to stop wide receivers.
Yep.
So with that in mind, I'm going to take Van Jefferson again. I'm taking Van Jefferson anytime touchdown at plus 220. The odds are up still at FanDuel. Might even be up to plus 230 at this point. I'd still take it. And I think it's worth mentioning. I think the one thing about Odell Beckham's presence in this offense, I think we still lose fact about that Van Jefferson is on the field quite a bit. Jefferson caught a touchdown in both games versus the Cardinals this season. One of them did have Odell Beckham in the game. And he still plays over 90% of the snaps for the wide receiver position, even though he's only getting a 15% target share. And that's because Cooper Kupp gets 33.5%, which is the highest of any player in the NFL. So really, you're kind of banking that Matthew Stafford will look the other way and try to throw it to somebody else who isn't Cooper Kupp, and a defense actually realizes, hey, maybe we should guard this guy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just for once, one game, I would love to see them actually try to blanket him, and Stafford have to try to make throws to other guys to actually beat them. And then maybe that's just how good Cooper Kupp is, because even with that idea and being game planned against, he's still getting open. So, yeah. But that being said, I still like Van Jefferson to score a touchdown today at plus 220. The Cardinals are last in the NFL for touchdowns to wide receivers, with 26 this year. As I mentioned, he caught a touchdown in both games versus the Cardinals this year. Anything over plus 200 for this, I think, is a great, solid value here for Van Jefferson to score. That is my final pick of Super Wildcard Weekend for Touchdown Town.
One of my favorite throws of the year was that Stafford bomb to Jefferson in that, I think it was a Monday night game, right? That was just one of the most beautiful throws of the year. So, yeah, like you said, touchdowns in both games against the Cardinals. Cardinals pass defense stinks. This is a great pick.
All right, Brenden.
Take us home here?
Yeah, take us home, man. I want to hear this last pick because I've got him as well, just on different odds, but I'm so amped for this pick. I just can't wait for you to tell us who it is.
Yeah, me and Gilles are both on this. We didn't even tell each other we were both on it too. We just our brain just synced on this one. We are going with Antoine Wesley plus 400. His odds are available at DraftKings. Wesley's been a sneaky little guy for the Cardinals. He's been on a touchdown heater. He has 3 touchdowns over his last 4 weeks for the Cardinals. He's kind of slotted himself into wide receiver 2 just by kind of injury default this year. AJ Green and him are kind of the go-to guys. Rondell Moore really hasn't stepped up for the Cardinals. So I'm expecting a lot of Antoine Wesley. And this is the big one. I think this is the key to this. Jalen Ramsey is not going to be near Antoine Wesley in this game. He's going to be on AJ Green. He's going to be elsewhere. He's probably going to have some plays on Zach Ertz in key situations. Antoine Wesley's going to have a good matchup today against the secondary just drops dramatically off from Jalen Ramsey to the next guys on the Rams. Really like this one at plus 400. And I believe, Gilles, you even got him at better odds at plus 550 at Bet365, so that you can even search around at other books to see if you want to get more value. But I really, really like this one. 3 touchdowns, last 4 games, wide receiver 2 on the Cardinals. This is right up our alleys.
Yeah, and I think that's the one thing, too, that's really interesting about the Cardinals offense is that wide receiver 2 is kind of up for grabs because it's, you have Christian Kirk, you have Rondale Moore, you have Antoine Wesley, for example. And the Rams pass defense has just been a little suspect over the while. Like, basically, if you throw away from Jalen Ramsey, you're probably going to score a touchdown. Like, I think that's really been the book on that Rams defense over the last few weeks. And Antoine Wesley, just given the track record and given the odds and given just what he's been able to do this season, just in a role with DeAndre Hopkins out, because they're going to have to throw the ball. Like, they're not just going to be able to kind of do whatever they want. And I mean, we've seen the history as well of AJ Green and Jalen Ramsey kind of button heads as well back when he was with Jacksonville all the time. And then obviously earlier matchups this season. So it's going to be a fantastic matchup. And I think, yeah, for sure, I think Jalen is going to match up on AJ Green for most of that game. All right, Brenden. Touchdown Town is in the books for Super Wildcard Weekend. That's all for us today, man. 6 picks from me, 6 picks from you. We're going to see you next week for the divisional round. The showtime is going to be determined, but we'll let you know once the schedule for the NFL comes out for those matchups as well. We kind of alluded to this. These aren't our only bets for Super Wildcard Weekend. I've got 3 touchdown score picks for each wildcard game. I've got separate videos coming out for both Patriots Bills, Cowboys 49ers, and Cardinals Rams as the weekend goes along. And, of course, any other picks that I'm going to be doing, like, for example, for Raiders Bengals, Eagles Bucks, and Steelers Chiefs. Those are going to be right on my Twitter timeline as well. And if you want to be able to have early access to those picks, you can just subscribe to FTNBets and head over to the pick tracker to get those.
Sorry, I was on mute quickly. I was talking while I was on mute. But yeah, same with Gilles. I'm doing 3 picks every game except for the Bills versus Patriots game. I'm only going to do 2 on that one. But make sure to check out my picks at the National Football Post. Or if you're too lazy to read an article like everyone else is nowadays, you can just see my tweets 45 minutes before each game.
I'm too late. See, I'm lazy to the lazy. It's like, no, I'm not tweeting them out like that. It's like, if you want it, here's my article link, and you can find them that way. But yeah, I'm a little more surly at my age. But if you want those picks as well, you can follow me on Twitter at GDog5000. Make sure to follow him at Brenden Deeg NFP. I want to thank everybody for watching Touchdown Town. That's Brenden Deeg of NFP, and I'm Gilles Gallant with BetsTV. Bon chance.